Hi everybody, this is Sonia Swan coming to you live from Iowa, and I apologize for the brightness behind me, but it is kind of in the middle of the afternoon, so we've got some light shining in over here, and hopefully that's not too bright for you today. So, oh my gosh, it's the Essential Oil Club. You guys are awesome. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Jim Bob Hagerton for putting this group together and allowing everybody to have a forum to hear from all the amazing leaders who have been sharing on this page. It is just such an incredible honor. I cannot not say that I'm just a wee bit nervous today. So yeah. And there you go, it's out there. And today we're going to be talking about Taming the Emotional Beast. That is the title of this Facebook Live that we're doing. So let me just get down here. I've got my little PowerPoint on my end so that I don't forget anything. So if you're watching the replay, welcome to the replay. And we just want to be sure that we request humbly everyone on here today would be praying for Jim Bob and for his knee and leg and for quick healing of that bone tissue. We just know that Jim has had the best attitude ever, hasn't he, about this, and has found all of the gratitude and he's been able to look at all the positive things that God has done through this situation with his broken leg. And so just please be sending him prayers and encouragement for this time, because I know it's a challenging time for the whole family. So thank you, Jim Bob. We love you. We're praying for you. All right, so get out your favorite emotional oils, and we're going to be talking about many of them throughout here. Before we get to the oils part, though, we're going to share a couple of other things which will be very powerful in your life. And so we will get right to that. Okay, before we start, 2 weird things about Sonia. All right, you gotta have some benefit from being on this page, on this Facebook Live, right? So 2 weird things about me. I love toilet paper sales. I don't know why, but when toilet paper goes on sale, I am extremely excited. And like I buy a bunch of toilet paper when it goes on sale. Ah, isn't that silly? But that is true. The other weird thing about me is that I'm a sockaholic. I love weird and different socks. Stripes and dots are my favorites. So there you go. 2 weird things about Sonia. So as I was preparing to get on this, I was remembering something that my mentor told me a long time ago. It's a little joke. Because when you're on a forum like this and there's 108,000 people, it's very easy to let your mind start wondering about what are other people going to think about us, right? And I remember about 20 years ago, my mentor said to me, Sonia, he said, when you're 20, you worry about what everybody thinks about you. When you're 40, you don't care what anybody thinks about you. And when you're 60, you realize nobody's been thinking about you anyway. So there you go. I'm somewhere in between there. I won't say where, but I'm in between those. And just like everybody else, we all have those little challenges within our own heads. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about emotions. And just what are emotions in the first place? So I did a little search today, actually. I haven't done this in the past. And I just looked up what the definition of emotion is. And I thought this was really interesting. So there's a couple of definitions. And one says it's an affective, which just means regarding emotional, state of consciousness in which joy, sorrow, fear, hate, or the like is experienced, as distinguished from the cognitive, how we think, volitional states of consciousness. I just thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. So this other one says any strong agitation of the feelings actuated by experiencing love, hate, fear, etc., usually accompanied by certain physiological changes as increased heart rate, respiration, and over manifestation, crying or shaking or something like that. So we all have this emotional beast in us. We have these emotions that come out and we think, oh my gosh, how do I tame this beast that's within me of all of these crazy emotions? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. And you probably already know this, But your unconscious mind is more powerful than your conscious mind. So sometimes emotions come up that we don't even know where they're coming from. Something happens and we react automatically. We don't even have a conscious thought about it. It's just a trigger because there's something that's programmed in our unconscious mind that is just coming to the surface without even us really thinking about it. So your unconscious mind is actually probably 90% more powerful than your conscious mind, which is kind of crazy, right? So we're going to be talking about what we can do for our unconscious mind just a tiny bit today. We do a whole nother segment on conscious languaging in some other trainings, but this one will be mostly on emotions. So I just want to give you this quote. It's not what happens that determines the major part of your future, Jim Rohn says. What happens, happens to us all. It's what you do about what happens that counts. So we all have trauma. We all have pain. We all have heartache. We all have things that we love and things that we don't love, people that we like and people that we don't like, emotions that come up that we would like to master. That's all of us. So it's not what happens to us. It's how we handle what happens to us that makes the difference. It's not the set of the sails, Jim Rohn says. It's not the direction of the wind because the wind blows on us all. It's the set of the sail of better thinking, because what we think will in turn relate into action. Okay, so let's just talk about this for one moment. Thoughts, words, and frequency. So did you know that your thoughts carry a frequency? It's something that other people can feel. I don't know if you've ever walked into a room where people are arguing and they say you can cut the tension with a knife, right? You can actually feel it in the air. There's a electricity, there's a frequency that is still hanging in the air from what those people were saying or thinking because they were angry in that room. Or if you ever maybe walked into a grocery store, maybe you're pushing your cart out to your car, and you walk past somebody and you go, ooh, I'm getting a weird, what do we call it? A vibe, a vibration. I'm getting a weird vibration coming from them. So why do we say that? That's a weird vibration. Well, because their thoughts are actually a frequency coming through the air and hitting your electromagnetic field. So if their thoughts aren't in harmony with your thoughts, it's going to hit your electromagnetic field and you're going to feel weird. It's going to be disharmonious with how you feel yourself. So that's why we get a weird vibe. Now, years ago, I read something, I'm not a Bible expert, but I read a scripture that said we have the power of life and death in our tongue. And I didn't really realize the power of that until I began studying the work of Dr. Emoto. Now, Dr. Emoto took some words and taped them on water bottles. And in other circumstances, he would play music over water bottles. But in this case, just taped words, and would have people go past and think those words over the water bottle. That's all. Just think them. Well, there's two types of water, structured and unstructured. And our bodies receive structured water better. It is thought that in the way back, we all had structured water all over the planet, but that's not the case now. But our bodies receive structured water better, so tell me the scientists. So when people would think good things over that water, it would actually change the molecular structure of the water to be structured or crystalline. Looks like a beautiful snowflake. And when they would think or say ugly words over the water, it would actually make the water unstructured, just a splat sort of. Just an ugly molecule that had no shape or form. So think about this. If I think over you, or someone thinks over me, and my body is 70% water, and somebody thinks good things over me, could that actually change the molecular structure of the water in my body? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's ever tested this. So, but I know that when somebody is thinking or saying good words over me, I feel better, right? I feel healthier. I feel more alive. I feel more vibrant. And when somebody is speaking ugly words over me, I feel worse and down, and I feel heaviness coming to my actual physical body. So I think that's very fascinating, and I don't know, you can go to Dr. Emoto's website page, and you can actually look these up and see these. But it's just proof that our thoughts are actually things. Our thoughts actually go out and create something. So you think, where does an emotion, how does this tie into emotions? Well, emotions start first many times, not always, because our unconscious mind kind of grabs stuff and pulls it out from the past. But many times, if we can catch right before that emotion, we will notice that we're having a thought about that thing before we have the emotion. So we think something. Our kids are driving us crazy, and we're telling ourselves, oh, my kids are driving me crazy, right? And so that translates into us being frustrated with our children. So that thought comes first, and then the emotion comes. All right. So what does God have to do with this? And I'm not preaching faith. I'm not preaching religion here. I'm just saying that God made this world with frequency. That's the way he made us. We have an electromagnetic field. That is true. It's scientific. We have thoughts are actually things. They are a frequency, and God spoke this world into existence. So he used frequency coming from his mouth. He had to imagine it first, right? He had to picture it in his head and have a thought about it, and then he spoke it out. So he had this frequency going on, and then he had the frequency of speaking it out. And when he spoke it, it appeared. When he spoke it, it appeared. So when we're made in his image, so when we speak something or we think something, what happens? Something appears. It might not be what you want, because maybe these thinking are not the best. And so what's happening is some other things are showing up in your life that could be the result of these thoughts and these words. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to check my battery here real quick. Got my phone hooked up to a battery. All right. So every plant, this is important, every plant has a frequency. Every plant sings. Some plants sing high soprano, some sing bass, some sing tenor. So when you walk outside today, just know that not only are our thoughts have frequency and we have frequency, but the plants have frequency. And so there is a symphony going on all around us right now as we walk outside. We can't hear it, but it's happening. The frequency, the symphony all around us. And one of the most powerful things about Young Living essential oils is that Gary is the only person on the planet, the only person who distills his oil to retain the frequency of the plant, what frequency that plant sings. This is very, very powerful. So God made us with an electrical frequency too. I'm going to do a real quick demonstration for you. And just realize that we are all interconnected. So as we start talking about these emotions and these oils coming up, it's very important that you understand that when Gary developed these emotional blends, he developed them knowing that each of our thoughts has a frequency. Each of our feelings and our emotions actually have a frequency to them, okay? Now I'm going to demonstrate our electrical frequency with this little thing right here. It's really cute. It's called an energy stick. And I usually do this with a big group of people. We all get around in a big circle and we all hold hands, and somebody's holding the end of this, and somebody else on the other side of the circle will come all the way around and we'll hold it on the other end. When we connect, we create electricity, right? You can do this within yourself. So right now I'm completing an electrical circuit, okay? If you can hear that. And you can do this with 10 people, you can do it with 100 people, you can do it with 1,000 people, all the way around a big circle, and then at the very end, now if 2 people let go of hands, this will stop, because we're all touching each other and we're all transferring electricity back and forth between each other. This is pretty exciting. All right, get myself on here. So thoughts, words, and frequency. Albert Einstein said, the world we have created is a product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. Our thinking. Mahatma Gandhi said, a man is but the product of his thoughts, what he thinks he becomes. Of course, in the Bible, there's a scripture that says, such as a man thinketh, so is he. So whatever we think about ourselves comes true. My computer's a little slow. All right, so before we get into the oils and emotions, which we are going to get into in just a moment, I want to teach you something that I promise you, if you will use this piece of information. It will change your entire life. He really flipped his lid. That's the emotional beast, right? Flipping your lid. So I want you to watch this visual, okay? This is what, if you don't know my story, I became a single mom about 5 years ago, and our lives kind of blew up. We went through a lot of trauma. We went through a lot of the emotions that I'm going to be talking about today. And because of all of that trauma that we went through, we were in counseling. My daughter, I have 4 children. I'm a single mom. I homeschool, and I have 4 children. So one of my daughters and I were going to a counselor just to kind of work out some issues. And this is something the counselor taught me. Now, I knew this. I kind of knew it. But the way she explained it was so powerful to me. So I'm going to tell you what she told me. All right. So if you take your hands like this, right? And I want you to think of this being your intellectual brain, and this being the amygdala. Now, your amygdala is in the center of your brain, and it's where your fight or flight comes from. So when you're scared and you get powerful energy to run really fast, that's the amygdala that increases that adrenaline, helps moms lift cars off of little kids and that kind of thing. Okay, that's that adrenaline. So when we have flipped our lids, that is literally what is happening, is the intellectual brain is no longer in control. And now the amygdala is in control. And the counselor told us that these two things cannot be in control at the same time. Either your intellectual brain is in control or your amygdala is in control, one or the other. So here's the problem in our house. See if you can relate to this. So this is what would be happening. Say one of my children would get upset, and my daughter would say, "Mom, I don't know where my school is, and I can't find my shoes," or whatever is going on, and she would flip, right? And all of a sudden, her intellectual brain's not working, her amygdala's in charge, she's in high stress, and I come over to her and I try to talk to her amygdala, okay? "Hey, honey, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna find that paper, don't worry about it, I'm sure your shoes are here somewhere." And what happens? Does that calm her down? No. What happens is she flips more, right? "No, it's not going to be okay." And then she goes off on another tangent, right? So when she flips more, what happens to me? "Oh, okay, you going to be that way?" Now I flip too. "Would you please calm down?" Right? "We are going to find it. Just go sit on the couch." Blah, blah, blah. So now we have 2 amygdalas over here trying to talk to each other. And neither of them respond to words. And neither of them have their intellectual brains in charge. It's the amygdalas. So when your intellectual brain is flipped, you're going to say things you don't mean, right? That's what we do when we're upset. We say things we don't mean because we're trying to talk to each other, but we don't even have our intellectual brains in charge, so we're not thinking properly. So this is very powerful. The counselor said that there was a couple of things that we could do to bring that intellectual brain back down in place. And one of them was touch, which I imagine is probably why, you see in the movies, and maybe some of you have seen this, somebody will punch a wall or will slam a door, right? And then will go up and down the street really fast. So that physical activity can help calm, actually, that intellectual brain down so that you can think clearly again after flipping your lid, right? So we need to get this intellectual brain back down. The other thing that she told me was regarding action and touch was just to go up to my daughter when she had her lid flipped and just grab her and just hug her, just squeeze her really tight, right? No words whatsoever, because words make it worse because her intellectual brain is not there. So I would grab my daughter, just rock. I would just hug her tight and just rock. The next time that she flipped, and you could just see this child that was super wrought up, and you could just feel, I could just feel her little body. And all of that tension, all of those emotions that were heightened, calmed down and relaxed, and then we could have a conversation. We couldn't have a conversation when she was flipped. So, thinking, wow, this is a good thing. The next time she flipped, I tried it again. I grabbed her, I hugged her, I rocked, and I said, oh, it's okay, baby. It's going to be all right. Oh, no. Those words did not work. Wah! And she went tense again, and she started flipping more. So I went, oh, that's right. The counselor said words make it worse. So I stopped talking, just grabbed her, and again, she calmed down. Now, here's the challenge for you and I, is that the people around us and ourselves are not the most lovely when we've flipped. So the thought of going up to somebody who's flipped their lid and they're upset and angry and just grabbing them and hugging them, that sounds pretty challenging. And for you and I, sometimes that's exactly what we need. So our family has now all learned this. And when I'm flipped, my children will come up to me and just hug me, right? If I'm upset about something, or I'm crying, or I'm angry at something, my kids will just come up and grab me and hug me. When my kids are upset, most of the time, I will just come up and grab them and hug them, right? So this is a good thing. No, we don't always do it perfectly. Sometimes we all flip together, right? This is a journey. It is not a destination. We don't have this all down. And it has still been very, very for our family. And I just encourage you, if you flip, or if you've got somebody around you that flips, and you are someone that wants to follow them down the hallway and work it out right now, I encourage you, don't do that. Let them walk away. Give them time to calm down and get their intellectual brain back under control before you have a conversation. Because otherwise, you're both going to say things you don't mean. And then we have to come back with apologies. And sometimes there's words spoken that are irreparable that we cannot stuff back in our mouths. They've already gone out, and that frequency has already gone out and done some damage. So it is better to let that person walk away and get themselves calmed down, or for you to walk away and get yourself calmed down before you tackle that situation, all right? Just this little piece of information alone can change your life and your relationships dramatically. And that's even before we talk about essential oils, which we're going to do right now. All right. So that's your amygdala, how to calm down that little beast so that when we flip and we become crazy. So let's talk about these thoughts as they get going and how they come out of our mouth. These are some of the things you might hear yourself saying. I'm so frustrated. Or he or she drives me crazy. Or maybe you're like me some days when my kids aren't listening to me and I'm like, why aren't my kids listening to me? Or we might be saying something like, I'm so tired, or this just gets me down, or oh, that makes me angry. Or I had a person around me that used to say, life is so hard, everything is so hard. And you know what? For them, it was hard. Or I just don't know if I can ever get over this. Or nothing ever goes right. Those types of things. Cancel, clear, that's not me. So those types of things might be things that you and I would be saying when we're when our emotions are running high. If we can catch them as a thought first, or a lot of times we won't catch them as a thought right away because it'll just come out of our mouth. And then we'll go, oh, wait, what am I saying? Okay, so we've got a whole thing on conscious language. I'm not going to go into that a ton right now, but just realize that your emotions are coming from thoughts that you're having. So what if we changed our thoughts before those words ever came out, maybe, if we could, to, when your kids are frustrating you, say, just choose to turn around and smile and say, I love my children. And just laugh, right? We can either be angry or we can laugh. So just laugh, whatever's going on. It's crazy. It's happening in every home. Just laugh and say, I love my children. I love people. I always have grace for others, and I'd like people to have grace for me in return. Are you telling yourself that you just automatically get upset, or can you tell yourself, I'm patient and loving. I forgive easily and I hold no grudges. And the one that I love most, and this is the one that I saw Jim Bob exemplify in his video, in his update video, was God's got this. Whatever it is, if you're a person of faith, God's got this. There is nothing that is happening that he can't handle. And many times, the bad things that we see in our life, we see of as bad, are actually good because they're there to teach us a lesson. So if we could learn to be great, Edson always says, which is, I am blessed and highly favored. Okay, so those are just some of the things that you might be able to as you think some of those and change them, because your unconscious mind is going to listen to whatever you tell it. So when those things just come up, it's because they've been programmed in over and over and over again. So our job now is to reprogram that so that our first inclination is not, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that to me. Our first inclination is, isn't that interesting? And I think I'm just going to give them some grace here. A little bit different perspective. So at first, when we're practicing this kind of thing, and I encourage you, I'll give you some resources later to go read those resources. But at first, we're unconsciously incompetent. Like, we don't even know that we're being negative and that our thoughts are controlling our emotions. We don't even know. We're unconsciously incompetent. And then we become consciously incompetent. Now we know, oh my gosh, I've got this stuff coming out of my mouth and I'm thinking these thoughts that are creating these emotions, and we're consciously incompetent. We're still not getting it, but we know we're not getting it. And then eventually, as we practice and as we use our oils, we will find that we become consciously competent. We have to think about it, but we're doing it. We're changing our thought and we're changing our word. And then eventually, as we do it over and over again, we become unconsciously competent. We can just do it. We can change it in a second. We can recognize it when it comes up, and we can change our attitude and we can change our emotion quickly. It's not that those things don't ever come up. It's that we can catch them and we can change them. All right. For some reason, my slide wants me to click rather than use my up and down button. All right. So we're going to talk about oils. Did you get your emotional oils out? I hope you did. This is very exciting. All right. So if you don't know where to start with emotions and oils, I can tell you that before I got on this Facebook Live, I used a lot of this Young Living's Believe blend, and I used some of Young Living's Inspiration blend. Earlier on today, I used some Neroli and took my Cortistop and my Super Bee before I got on here. But if you don't know where to start with emotions and oils, this is a great little kit. This is a kit called the Feelings Kit. And Gary put this together specifically to give people a place to start when they're dealing with drama in his own life, and as have many of you and I. So the same place Gary started to become successful, to change his life, to rewrite things in his thoughts and his brain, this is it right here. This is the start. It's called the Feelings Kit. And this has in it, let me tell you all of the oils here: harmony, forgiveness, inner child, present time, release, and valor. Okay, so this is a powerful, powerful kit. And we're going to be talking about all of those oils in addition to some other ones as we go through here. So this is not only a fabulous place to start because this is where Gary says to start, but this is also a place to start because it's economical. It's a great economical way to get your oils. So there you go. So this is a good day protocol, and I don't know if Vicki Opfer came up with this or if Gary came up with this. I heard it first from Vicki, but this is a great protocol to use just every day. And I remember hearing in a training that Vicki Opfer did, she said that she would do this every day, and then if she'd forget her oils for a couple of days, her kids would remind her, because the oils made such a difference in how she was able to have emotional control throughout the day. So this is the protocol. If you want to write this down or somebody wants to type it: Valor or Valor 2 on the wrists or on the feet, okay? Joy over your heart. Where's my joy? Get my joy right here. Put some joy over the heart. Put some harmony oil over the solar plexus. Now, we homeschool and we've got 4 children from 16 down to 8. So we're around each other all the time. You can better believe we like to diffuse a little bit of harmony, and Mama likes to put it on her solar plexus sometimes. And then white angelica. And white angelica is one of my favorite blends in the world. I think everybody should own a bottle of white angelica, honestly. Let me get mine for you, and I will show you how I like to use it. Hold on just a second. I have 2 oils kits down here. Oh, hey, Annie. Yeah. Would you grab, oh no, I've got some right here. Here we go. Live. Okay, so this is white angelica, and I like to use white angelica like Vicky taught me in that video, just like an angelic shield, right? Just putting some on my hands, rubbing them together, and then just brushing it all over, front, back, on top of my clothes, all the way down my legs, around my back, just everywhere. So why do I do that? That just seems weird, doesn't it? Well, white angelica, remember we talked about frequency, and this is why we started with that, is because we do have an electromagnetic field. We are electric, okay? We have an electromagnetic field, and white angelica helps protect that from, remember those weird vibes that come and hit us, and they don't jive with us, right? So white angelica has a frequency that helps those things bounce off so that they're not penetrating through our electromagnetic field. So when you're going to go into a situation where you're uncomfortable, you're kind of timid, maybe you think somebody's going to be angry or etc., I just white angelic it up, right? So that their stuff can be their stuff, and if they choose to be upset, they can do that, but my stuff is my stuff, and I can maintain my own emotional balance while whatever outside of me is going on outside of me, I can be okay. So this is funny, or not. When I'm upset sometimes, I don't want essential oils. And when my kids are upset, we don't want essential oils. Why? Because we're not thinking, right? We're flipped, and our intellectual brain is not in charge. And so I don't think to go put on my oils when I'm upset. My kids, however, my children will come up and they will grab white angelica and they will get it on their hands and go, and they'll either put it on themselves or they will put it on something or pat my head. They call me fuzzy-haired mama. So this is such a powerful blend. I'm going to tell you one more story with white angelica, and then I'll move quickly through the rest. I have a gal who came over and we did a little scan on her, and white angelica came up for her. So I asked her what was going on in her life and was she around any negative people, and she shared that she was a Zumba teacher. She'd had a lot of trauma in her life, and she would cry every time she would come home from her Zumba class. Just tears, just like she happy, she loved Zumba, she would be teaching it, but then as soon as she would leave, she would pick up everybody's emotions and just take them home with her, and she'd start crying. And I said, I don't know if this will help, but just try that. Try putting white angelica all over and before your class, and then just see what happens. And she called her friend the next day and said, oh my gosh, this is the first time I went home from Zumba class not crying and picking up everybody else's emotions. So this is powerful. All right, that was the good day protocol. Valor, joy over the heart, harmony over the solar plexus, and white angelica kind of all over like an angelic shield. All right, so we're going to talk about anger, right? That's the one. We flip, right? Did you know that anger is not ever anger? Anger is always a cover emotion for another emotion, usually hurt. Again, something I learned in counseling, right? I thought this is very fascinating. So see, even the traumas that we go through, and even the trials, and even my family having to go through counseling because we were dealing with so many issues from my life blowing up and becoming a single mom, has a value. And we can't always see that value right in the very beginning, but sometimes in retrospect we can see the value of that. So anger is a cover emotion for hurt. Anger and bitterness, just so you know, are stored in the liver. So I think that there's a scripture, am I right, that says be angry and sin not. So it's not wrong to be angry. It's a natural, normal emotion. We're going to get angry. But how do we get angry and we don't hurt other people. That is the trick, right? So that's where we talk about what we do with the amygdala. That's where we talk about these things we're going to do preventatively before we ever get to that place of being angry or getting hurt by something. So for anger, these are the oils I like. I don't know if somebody can type them in, but white angelica. I love peace and calming. If you notice that you're starting to get wrought up, put a little bit of peace and calming on to settle yourself down, or peace and calming too. Forgiveness. A lot of times we're angry because we haven't chosen to forgive some past hurts. And then when we get re-hurt again or something happens that's little, all of a sudden all of those past hurts come up and we kind of explode. So forgiveness. Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves. Sometimes we need to forgive others. Harmony is one, which is in that feelings kit. Acceptance and release. These are two of my favorites. Humility and stress away. Okay? So those are wonderful, wonderful. And you can, of course, rewind this and get this on the replay too if you want to write those down. And all the Juva products. Okay? Anything Juva is going to be very supportive of a healthy that may be something, an area of the body that we really want to support as we move. About grief. I'm hoping that this screen is not freezing as much as my phone is freezing up on me. Okay, so grief. Grief is our deep sorrow over loss or death. And that doesn't have to be, that can be loss of anything. Loss of a friendship, loss of a business, loss of a job. We can grieve over any of that. So one of the things that has helped me, because I've gone through a lot of grief, and I still have quite a bit of grief that because there's so many things. And I've been learning lately that grief is a pretty natural thing, and it's okay to have grief from time to time. So it's not necessarily that we want to stuff it, but how do we handle it and move through life while we're experiencing grief? This is important. So grief can include self-pity, which we can handle by rewriting the thoughts in our head if we're starting to feel self-pity. I call it reframing, so you might hear me say a lot reframing. Anger or denial. Your cortisol levels increase. I remember when my life blew up, I could think of all the things I should be thankful for. I could list them out for you. I could tell you a list of 100 things I should be thankful for, even through the stress of my life kind of just going crazy and ending up being a single mom. But I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel anything other than grief and despair, and you could just look at me and I would start crying. And so I just began to support my body's healthy levels of cortisol and started taking a supplement that Young Living makes called Cortistop. And that, over a period of time, probably about 2 weeks, my body finally got whatever it was that it needed to be able to just handle things. I'm like, oh, this is who I am. Okay, I can actually feel something other than despair and sadness, right? So this is good. All right, so adrenals may be compromised because your cortisol levels are up. Your adrenals can be compromised. Your thyroid can become compromised. So forgiveness, acceptance, and release are three of my favorites for grief. My assistant, Julie, who thankfully she has all my kids today at the park, she also has been through a lot of grief. And what do we do? The first thing that happens when something happens or somebody dies in her family or something's going on is we go for the forgiveness, acceptance, and release. Cortistop are some great supplements, or Cortistop, Thyromin, Super B is great. Did you know that B vitamins both pick you up, like give you energy, and they also help calm you down both ways? So B's are very, very important. Progestins and Endoflex are also great for, because when your cortisol levels go up, your progesterone levels go down. And progesterone is your happy hormone, right? So this is important to support that. Okay. What about lack of confidence? All right. Can anybody say today on this? So lack of confidence is just really a limiting belief in ourselves. And I love this blend right here, which is called Believe. And Hung Kwai is fabulous. Highest Potential is fabulous. And of course, one of my favorite oils, which I have all over the house, I probably have one in every pocket of every coat. I have it sitting over here on my desk. And this is Abundance. Believe it or not, I love this for confidence. And I do Abundance the same way as you would do White Angelica. So I take a little bit in my hand, I rub it around, Wright spinning, if you want to know why. That's Dr. Stewart's 800-page chemistry book. And I rub it all over. I love my Abundance. Okay, so we'll flip through. What about this one? This one is Abuse, Shame, and Guilt. These are 3 biggies, guys. They're huge because so many people have gone through abuse issues. This is a lot of us think that, oh my gosh, we're all alone, that nobody else has ever gone through what we're going through, but a lot of us have. We're all the same. We all have some pain, and many of you have been through abuse, and you might feel shame or guilt. So abuse is the misuse or mistreatment of somebody with cruelty or violence. It doesn't have to be physically, it can be verbally as well. Guilt is I've done something bad. Shame is I am bad. 2 different things. Guilt can be healthy if it causes us to change a behavior that's not healthy for us. But shame is something that we just feel like we're okay. So that's something totally different. And generally, shame is not healthy. So reframing is vital. Changing these thoughts right here are super vital. So I will be recommending some resources at the end to help you further with this journey. Gary has such a heart for this particular area of abuse, shame, and guilt. And these are some of my favorites for this area. Trauma Life. Because it's called Trauma Life. Sarah, which is a blend that Gary actually developed for a particular person that had gone through a lot of trauma. Acceptance, Forgiveness, Release, Believe, Inspiration, Frankincense, and Joy. Those are my favorites. There are many reference guides on reference materials on emotions, so you might find another favorite. My favorite doesn't have to be your favorite. Something else might work just as well for you. And then forgiveness, and we're almost done here. We must let go of past hurts and present hurts to move on and become the people that God has intended to be. We must let go of past hurts. Always assume the best of others. This is something in the book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you don't have that book, that's one of the best books on relationships, period, and how to build friendships and trust in relationships that I have ever read, and I recommend it to everybody. I think you can get it as a free PDF online. It's somebody has typed it into a PDF. So How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he taught me in that book, that's by Dale Carnegie, to always assume the best of others, no matter what. So just go read that book. All right, realize that God works it all out for our good. If we trust him to do so, it will work out for our good. And we'll be able to thank him in even the hard times. So for forgiveness, 3 wise men. Forgiveness, of course. Acceptance and release, those are 2 of my own personal favorites. Present time, because sometimes we're stuck in the past of something else. Hope and gratitude. And you guys are feel free to type in your favorites for each of these emotions. And gratitude. So gratitude is another great oil just to put on every single day. Because we can't really hold gratefulness and anger at the same time, or gratefulness and unforgiveness at the same time. Do you see what I'm saying? So if we're able to maintain a heart and an attitude of gratefulness, a lot of these other emotions will begin to slip and fade away, and our days will be much more joyful and much more, the beast is going to be tamed. How about that? Frustration is the feeling of being upset or annoyed, especially because of our inability to change something or achieve something. And a lot of us might be frustrated with where we are in business. Maybe we're frustrated with where we are in a relationship because we can't change it. Again, acceptance oil is one of my favorites. When I can't change something or someone, I love acceptance oil. See, there's a difference between putting up with something and accepting something. When you put up with something, you can act nice, but you're still wrought up inside. When you actually accept something, that something is the way it is, then you're able to have peace in your heart, which is the goal, right? Is for us to have peace. So acceptance and what's the other word I want? I'm missing that word. It'll come to me. Surrender is another great one that I love for frustration. People that have control issues. I like to have surrender and gratitude, stress away before you get to that super frustrated point, and joy. And just remember, reframing, changing our thoughts is huge in this. Okay, so I'm going to give you some books because I'm way out of time. And we can certainly type these in here. I will show you my favorite books on emotions. This is one of my very favorites. Ooh, I don't have Pastor Henry Wright's here. Okay, this is one of my favorites, so it's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. I love this book. It has been a wonderful blessing to me and my family. Sometimes I have my children read it. You can pick out different emotions and replace them. She actually has you script, a little script where you script through the old emotion and you replace it with a new thought, with a new emotion. And I love this. She also has a little chart in the back about what emotions might be tied to what physical ailments are going on in your body. So this is great. I know Louise Hay has some of that kind of stuff too. Feelings Buried Alive Never Die by Carol Truman. There's another book which I don't have here called A More Excellent Way by Pastor Henry Wright. So if you're somebody who is a believer, you will enjoy reading A More Excellent Way. It's been very helpful for me. I haven't read this one yet, but I know a lot of people like it. It's called The Aroma Freedom Technique. So I just thought I would bring it up here and show you. I do have it. I just haven't read it yet. I know a lot of people in my group love this book right here called Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. This is by Carolyn Mine. And she tells you where to put which oils for which emotions, etc. So a lot of people in my group love this one. And this is conscious language. So you can actually go to, I don't know, we can post a link to the company that produces these CDs. You can get the conscious language CDs, but this is also a conscious language book. This is by Robert Tennyson Stevenson. And Robert and Marcella von Harding did a CD set, a 3 CD set, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe, on conscious language. And those tapes, those CDs, really changed my life. I am so thankful for them. I'm so thankful for Marcella and Robert Tennyson Stevenson for doing what they did with that CD set. They did it for Young Living People, and there's some oil stuff in there too, so that's really cool. We can post a link of where you can get those. And I'm very excited to announce that my friend Rhonda Favano, who's also a Young Living Diamond, just wrote a book called Conquering Toxic Emotion, and I got a chance to preview that book. I'm very excited. I think I talked to her today, asked her if I could mention her book because I really like it. I think it's going to be a great beginner book for us to just be able to give out to our teams. It's going to be in a kind of a booklet format, and it's going to be called Conquering Toxic Emotions by Rhonda Favano. I love her writing style. It's very easy to just pick up and get to the place where you want and get the oils for the emotions that you want. So I love that. It's kind of a combination of several different books in a really simplified format. So you are going to love that when that comes out. You can also go to our YouTube channel, which is Our House of Life, and we have a video of conscious language on there. I can't tell you it's even going to do justice to the subject compared to what Marcella and Robert Tennyson Stevens does, but that may be helpful for some of you. And let's see. I love this by Jim Rohn. You must constantly ask yourself these questions. Who am I around? What are they doing to me? What have they got me reading? What have they got me saying? And most important, what do they have me becoming? then ask yourself the big question, is that okay? Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. So no one has control over our emotions unless we give them control. We are the only ones responsible for our emotions and the resulting behavior that comes from them. So prevention is the best remedy. Taking your B vitamins, making sure you're giving your body some Ningxia, keeping your blood sugar levels up, making sure you can have the pieces, the parts in there that are going to help you keep that emotional stability. So prevention is the best remedy before we ever get to that beastly state where we're just everybody and maybe saying some harmful things. So think ahead, use your supplements, and realize that sometimes we have to see ourselves through somebody else's eyes, and many times we do. We take on what other people think about us as our own identity. So it's so important, the circle of friends that we hang around, and that they speak life into you and that they speak confidence into you. I had all kinds of people praying for me today for this because, yeah, it's so many. And I am so thankful that the people around me were able to say, you got this, Sonia, you can do this. This is, it's going to be great. Because a lot of times we see ourselves through other people's eyes. So pick those friends that see you as amazing and fantastic and that will bring out your good qualities to you and remind you of what those are. Because many times we forget what our amazing qualities are. And each and every one of you are a child of the creator of the universe. We are all brothers and sisters. And we all have this light of God Almighty sitting inside of us. I don't care what your faith is. We're created by Him. We have this amazing light inside. And so my job and your job and our jobs as leaders is to find that light in other people and show it to them and remind them what that light in them looks like. Pull out their good things. Be someone who's an encourager. And when you're down, find something to encourage about in somebody else. And that will actually pick you up. So everyone is looking for somebody who's positive, who's encouraging, and who sees the best in them. Go out and be that person. We'll get our emotions under control. We'll use our oils. We'll support our body with the good supplements. We'll remember this, right? And then go out and be the person who changes the world by how we treat other people, one day at a time, one person at a time. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you all at convention. Have a great night.